Hello, welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm your host, Karen Seltz. The late and great Wayne Dyer once said, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And I want to speak to you today about perspective and about how you can use your subconscious mind for you. So I talk a lot about priming your subconscious mind, like telling it what you want to see, what you want to experience. And this is a discipline. It takes practice. And many of us are impatient. We are in the I want it and I want it now world. If we want food, we call Uber Eats, or, there are plenty of options for just about everything at almost any time of day or night in most of the areas that we live in. And we are in this instant gratification society. And I'm not saying that's bad. A lot of times it's great to have this as a convenience. And a lot of times we get lazy and we don't want to do the things that it takes to create the life that we want. So a lot of times we are running on autopilot. We are running on programs that are below our level of awareness, below our level of consciousness in the subconscious mind. And if we look at, what was your life like last week? I bet it was really similar to this week. What was your life like last year? Probably pretty similar. And it's because by the time we're 35 years old, our brains are so programmed and conditioned into ways of thinking, believing, and feeling. And it becomes almost like an addiction. Not even almost. I just hate to say that. I don't want you to stop watching because I say something like that. So just have an open mind and take what fits. Be curious about the rest. So when we are in the habit of thinking or believing something, a belief is an unconscious program. It is a perceived truth. We think it's true. We don't think about a belief. We just believe it. And I'm going to invite you to question everything you believe, because here's your evidence. Okay, so look for evidence. Don't just take my word for it. I want you to prove it for yourself. So let me back up. So if beliefs were true and beliefs create your reality, then every single person would be living the exact same reality. Everybody would be billionaires or everybody would be homeless. And that's simply not the case. So for most of us, normal, like lay people, for me personally, I'll just speak for myself. At this place where I am right now, it doesn't seem even remotely possible for me to become a billionaire anytime soon. Okay. So I invite you to think about that. Is that a possibility for you to become a billionaire with a B? And if you don't think that's true, that's because it's a belief. And that belief has been there since probably before you were even conscious, before you were 7 years old. We form so many of these beliefs with these young, immature minds based on our environments, what our parents tell us, what the church tells us, what our school told us. And then as adults, we carry those beliefs and we take them as fact without even questioning them. So think about, like, what are some of the things you're experiencing that you don't necessarily love, that you wish would be different? And the name of this episode, I titled it Stop Wishing and Start Creating. Because wishing it's almost pointless, really, because it means that you don't believe something's going to happen. You just wish it would, but you're not willing to do anything differently. You're not willing to take any action to create that thing. So it's really bringing up those subconscious programs, those beliefs, and starting to take a look at them. And yes, this can be really uncomfortable when you first start, because when you start noticing how often you do certain behaviors or how often you might say negative things to yourself, it's uncomfortable. It really is. And here's what I want you to do. Every time you catch yourself doing the thing that you want to catch yourself doing, celebrate the fact that you caught it, because before you were unconscious to it. So it was just running below your level of consciousness and running you. And what that means is you are not at choice. 95% of the time, we are reacting based on the past, and we're missing out on the present moment, the generous present moment. And the present moment is where you can experience peace. It's where you can experience unconditional love. And it's the only time you can surrender into what is. You're not worried about the past. The past no longer exists. The future is not your concern. You're so present that those do not exist for you. It's like the horses with the blinders on. It's like they're not looking at the past or not looking at the future. They're right looking straight ahead. And that's what we get to train ourselves to do. So when the mind starts to wander and go back, oh, I wonder if this is like that last thing, or I wonder if this is going to happen, just like it did to me in 1985. We're masters at recreating the past or trying to predict the future based on the past, which means we can take our past and put it over top of our future, because we're going to keep creating the same doggone things, whether we like them or not. And what I'm here to do is to like shake up your beliefs and to let you know that whatever is in you as a desire, as a vision, you have everything you need within to create that. It's just shifting your perspective. Now, somebody in my business coaching group reminded me of a book. And I bought this book, I don't know, a year or so ago. And I think I read the foreword and I never finished it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to read it. So I got it out, and it's really short. It was like less than 100 pages. And I read it and did the exercises in the course of 2 days. And what's fascinating is how quickly my perspective on what was possible for me and on what I was actually experiencing in my life right now actually shifted. And you could use this for anything. The book is called Dollars Flow Easily to Me, or Flow to Me Easily, one of the two. It's Richard Dotts, Dotts. But what he has you do is just spend some time with your eyes closed, going into nothingness, which is, I've practiced doing this with the Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations for a very long time, but just going into the void where you forget that you're a body, you forget that you're a woman or a man, you forget that you're a dentist or a lawyer, whatever you do for a living, you forget that you're a wife or a mother or a father or a brother or a sister. You forget all those identity pieces and you just become nothing, aware of nothing. You forget all your senses, all your 5 senses, you shut them off. Now, for me, I like to listen to music because it just allows me to go a little deeper and calms my mind down a bit. But then once I'm in that blackness, I can become nothing. And there comes a time when you practice this often enough where you actually become everything, everywhere, every time, every place, everyone. And it's just beautiful. It doesn't happen to me every time. It doesn't happen even that often. But when it does, I really know my oneness. I know my unity with everyone, everything, with God, with the trees, with the pets, with everything. Every person is the same as me. And I don't know, you can't explain it unless you've been there, but it is possible. So when you get to that place, you're not worrying anymore. And whatever we worry about, we are essentially placing an order to the universe, bring me more of this. Because where your attention goes, your energy flows. So if you are trying to create, listen to my words, I use them deliberately, trying to create more money, what are you focusing on? Well, trying is a really disempowering word to the subconscious mind. And it means that you are resisting what is, and you are not in flow. If you are trying, you are efforting. And life isn't meant, in most cases, isn't meant to be efforted for very long. So when you're focusing on what you don't have, you are creating more of what you don't have. If you have disharmony in your relationships, if you feel disrespected by your children and you're focusing on the problem, that becomes the problem. So what he says is set a timer. And this is funny because I used to do this when I was mourning the death of my mother. I'm a single parent. I have been for a very long time. And my kids were fairly young when my mom passed away. And I didn't have somebody to hand them off to. I didn't have the time really to mourn fully whenever it was convenient. I got to parent as well. So what I did is I used to set a timer for 15 minutes and I would just go all in. I would scream and cry and, just like get it all out. And then the timer would go off and I'd be like, blow my nose. I'm like, okay, I get to parent now. And I have a red face and all the things, but who cares? I was still able to shift. So what he's saying is put all your worry into a 15-minute period. Okay, set a timer. Okay, all my worries about my bank account, my relationships, whatever it is you're worried about, your health, just worry about it for 15 minutes. The rest of your waking hours, you are to concentrate on what you want. Because he put it in such a fascinating way for me that I've always known, not always, but for a very long time, that the universe doesn't hear negative words. What's fascinating is it hears the context. So if you say, don't bring me, it hears bring me, right? So if you're focusing on, you love a white Mercedes and you keep thinking about, oh, I love white Mercedes. It's just my dream car. I love them. You're going to see them everywhere, right? And somehow the universe knows that's your order. So as soon as you stop blocking, it's already there for you. Everything you already want is already here. Everything. The universe has been taking scrupulous, impeccable notes on what you desire. Now, it doesn't hear the difference. Whatever you say out loud, it thinks, okay, I'll bring you more of that. So if you're complaining at all, guess what you're going to get? More of what you're complaining about. If you are starting to tell your subconscious mind, and I have people do this all the time when I start working with them. So right now I'm doing a 5-day Unleash Your Confidence on Camera challenge. And one of the homework assignments every single day is to write down 5 wins every single day. And what I'm doing is having them start priming their subconscious minds. Look for ways that I stretched outside my comfort zone today. Look for ways that I showed up for myself. Look for times I was nice to myself and I said nice, encouraging things. Look for times I was courageous. Look for times I made someone else's day or I was kind or whatever ways of being that they really want to become. Because we already are all those things. It's just a matter of focusing on them. Because when you focus on them, they expand. What you focus on grows. That's just the way it is. So by doing that over the course of 5 days, they're accumulating 25 wins, 25 more than they had last week. I can almost promise, because most of us were programmed for survival. We're looking for threats and danger. We're not looking for what went well. We're looking for, oh gosh, how did I almost die today? How did I almost not fit in? We're looking for the negative things, not on purpose, but that's our default programming. So you get to intervene. You get to tell your subconscious mind, look for my wins, look for things I get to celebrate. And one of my favorite go-to books is called The Way of Mastery. And I love this book. I read it almost every single day. And my copy is falling apart. It's underlined and highlighted in a zillion different colors. There's notes in the margins. What do you call it? The seam. What do you call that? The cover is falling off, all the things. But I love it. And I love it. So one of the things in my book that I was just reading was do not lament your life as it is right now, for it is absolutely perfect. Each set of conditions contains within it everything you need to translate your life into that which expresses your love of God. Never lament what you create or experience. Now, I haven't done that in my life. Okay, there have been periods of time where I'm like, yes, okay, I created this. It must be for a reason. Doesn't mean I have to like it. But this is taking it like a step further. Like it's telling you, like, appreciate what you've created. Like find one thing, just one thing that can be appreciated within it. What can I appreciate about this disappointment? What can I learn from it? And then it's also going further and saying, bring unconditional love to it. So if you take a situation that you're like, oh gosh, I feel like a failure, and you treat it like you would your child, and you unconditionally love that situation exactly as it is. And then one of the core principles in the way of mastery is all events are neutral. So if you can learn that within your own life to see all events as neutral, it's so much easier to not make meaning out of it because you are the one that decides. You are the one that gets to decide what perspective you're going to see it through. What's the lens you're going to choose to look at it? If you can bring love to it, you can bring love to yourself and not make it mean anything about you. Doesn't mean you're a failure. Doesn't mean that you messed up. Like it's all perfect and it's all for you if you choose to look at it that way. And I know it's easier said than done. And it's a skill. You can practice it and you can get really good at it. And I love this part too. It's like each time you think you have failed, celebrate. Celebrate your so called failure as if it were a success. Now, can you imagine that? Like, all right, so I'm launching and I have like a lofty goal. And what if nobody joins my program? I get to celebrate that. And I get to remember that I am the one who decides what I perceive. When you celebrate your failures, they become your successes. When you celebrate your failures, they become your successes. And it goes on, this book, it's called The Way of Mastery, says any successful person knows they never fail. They merely learn and become wiser. Life evolves from good to better to best as the mind learns to be the presence of love, which for me is like acceptance. Like when I learn to accept what is, I'm not in resistance to it. And then I can allow, and I can choose what I look at. I can choose to look at things through the eyes of love. And that is also a skill and it's a choice. When I choose to look at things as God or the divine looks at things, and to look at people as God looks at them, I can see them as innocent. I can see them as doing the best they can, no matter what they believe, no matter what they say. And I cannot take it personally. When I'm in my ego mind, my small s self, then everything is like an attack. Or when I look at people, it's what are they doing? What could they possibly do to me? So I have to protect myself. Or what could they do for me? Because I feel like I'm lacking something and I can't do it for myself. Or I'm not allowing God or the universe to do it for me. So it's really, really digging deep. And I was on this woman, Donna Lynn Riley's podcast, and she was on my show last week or 2 weeks ago. And she said when she is looking at her videos, she looks at herself and she refers to herself in the third person. Wow, she did this and she did this, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Because it takes the person, like the personal charge out of it. And it's just neutral. It's like she's a person. I'm evaluating her performance from an outside perspective with no attachment. No attachment. And I love that. I thought that was brilliant. I told her I was going to borrow it. So, what are the things that you're wishing would change? And what would happen if you withdrew your focus and attention from those things? What if you started looking for what was right about your life? What's good about your life? What it can be celebrated? What are your wins? What are your successes? I remember having this conversation with my mother many, many years ago because one of her habits was to get on the phone with me and complain about my dad. And I said to her one time, I'm like, does he do anything right? And she's like, well, yeah. I said, does he do anything for you? Does he do anything to make your life better or easier? And she had to think about it. And I said, and then she's like, yeah, he does. He does this, 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 and this. I'm like, what would it be like? And what do you think he would feel if you actually told him that instead of where he's falling short? And she actually paused, and I think she did it once, but then she went back on autopilot. And that's, how we roll. Most of us are on autopilot, and it's time to wake up. This world needs you to be awake, to be aware of your behaviors. And when you have those desires within you to do something different, to be someone different, you get to follow that impulse because it is there and your calling is going to get louder and louder. And things will start to disappear from your life that you don't like. Like people might disappear if you don't follow this calling. And I'm not saying it to be mean or to scare you, but just watch. Like if you don't listen to that call, like people who work out compulsively, for example, and they're ignoring certain things like, oh, I have this ache or this pain, but I'm going to push through it because I got to exercise. Well, what happens to them? They break a bone. Like almost everybody I know who's in that, and they think they are a body. They will break something or they get into a car accident, like something tragic happens that is like slow down. You are not a body. You are more than that. Use your brain, use your heart. And then they get to slow down. They get to take inventory because they can't do those things, which a lot of times that's a running behavior is to be in constant motion. Or, we could go the opposite way, like constantly be scrolling on social media or watching TV. There are so many ways we run from our calling. And my invitation is to, yes, sure, enjoy things and listen. When you get that tap on the shoulder, listen and say, how can I be of service? Because you don't need to worry about the how. That's what trips up so many of us. Like, that's so big. Like, I have a big vision. And if I get stuck in how in the world am I going to do this, it's like eating an elephant in one bite, right? And the how is none of your business. If you have any spiritual beliefs or practice, you will know that the how is God's business. It's the universe's business. It's not yours. You just get to be willing to take the next right step. Take action, yes, and ask, okay, what would you have me do now? Okay, great. I did the thing. Now, what would you have me do? Or how would you have me look at this? What would you have me say and to whom? There are so many great questions that you can ask, and that requires you to slow down and to get quiet and to start focusing on what you want. That's it. When you focus on what you want more than what you don't want, you're going to get more of what you want. And if you don't believe me, just try it. Be a scientist in your own life. Because if you don't have exactly what you want, what would it be like to try something else? To say, maybe I got that part wrong. Maybe there's a better way. I'm still learning this stuff. And I love to play with it. I love to play with possibility. Why not? What else am I doing? Like, what else is more important than creating my life or creating the impact that I'm here for? Nothing. Same with you. You are here for a purpose. If you're not doing it, what are you making more important? What are you making your idol? I'm going to get biblical, right? What are you putting in front of your vision or in front of your guidance? Nothing's that important. You are here for a purpose. It is time that you live it. That's my 2 cents. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm Karen Seltz. I love you so much, and I really appreciate you watching. Mwah.